welcome back to the show. Today, we are going to be diving into the topic of developing a creative practice. I want to talk about why this is such a powerful foundation for anybody that wants to thrive as a creative person. So, if you have been wondering what it really takes to develop a creative practice or how to go from idea to actually getting creativity into your daily routine, then this is going to be the episode for you. So grab your drink, get cozy, and let's get started. Let's kick off this exploration by chatting a little bit about why you might even want to consider setting up a creative practice for yourself. The first reason is because when we create a designated time to practice, we are reducing the amount of decisions that we have to make. I don't know about you, but I have to make so many decisions throughout my day, whether it's what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to wear, what I need to accomplish, who I need to talk to. You get the idea. There's so many things that we have to do throughout the day. And leaving creativity up to chance is not one of those things that I really want to be thinking about. I just want to know that I have to do it and know when I need to do it and sit down and getting it done. So when we create a time when we know we're going to do this, we don't have to think about it. So for those of us who are neurodivergent or who are low energy or who get paralyzed with too many decisions, setting up a time to work on our creativity is such an important piece to the puzzle. The second reason is that if you make creativity a practice, then it becomes a habit. And similar to the first point, when it becomes a habit, you don't really have to think about it. You just know I'm supposed to be doing this thing at this time because that's what I always do. And hopefully you start looking forward to it. And honestly, that's really the goal, that we look forward to it, because the more that that happens, the more that we're going to show up and spend time with our creativity. The next reason for setting up a practice is that when you're showing up regularly, you can see your progress and your growth much more easily. So showing up regularly helps us to pick up on the areas that we're enjoying, the things that we don't like so much, the things that we want to explore further. And not only do you grow as a creative, but you also grow as a person. And honestly, I think that's like my favorite part about being a creative person. I think I've said it before, and I'm going to continue to say it again and again. But our creative practice is not just about creating things, it's also about our development as artists, as creatives, knowing ourselves better. And I think that when we are intentional with our practice, we can gain so much more than skills, technical skills. We learn so much about ourselves, and it becomes a ritual. It becomes a place to really be with ourselves, with our inner world. And for this last reason, there are many other reasons why I think creating a practice is so important. But today I'm just sticking to some of the most important reasons, in my opinion, to do this. Is that when we create a practice, we are making intentional time to infuse play and fun into our daily routines. As many of us know, adult life is filled with responsibilities, with bills, with all the things, right? And it's really easy to get caught up in that world and not make time for us to relax, for us to play, for us to have fun. And one of the things that I talk about all the time is that for adults, creativity is the way that we play. And a big part of being creative is having the ability to loosen up and play. And this is something that I want to talk about in a future episode, so look out for it. But it's so important for us to play regularly to keep our creative juices flowing. And for so many of us, the idea of play is actually really hard because so many of us are caught up in our analytical minds. And like I said, getting all the things done on our to-do list. And so switching our brains to being loose and free and creative can take a little bit of practice, especially if you've been out of the loop in terms of creativity and creative things. It's going to take a little while to get back into that mindset, into that space of letting yourself be. And that's one of the things that I love working with clients on, their ability to play more. And that is why I love therapeutic art making, because a lot of the exercises that we do are really just about letting ourselves make ugly art, make mistakes, and do the things that we are so afraid to do right off the bat so that we get it out of our system and we start to feel more confident with making things that are illogical and a little weird and a little crazy. So setting up a time for us to intentionally play and to feel safe to do that and to know that no one's going to judge us because this is just for us is so profound. And like I said, it nurtures not only your creativity, but also your spirit as a human being. So now let's talk about some of the things that your creative practice can include. The first thing that I have here on my list is having a clear and meaningful intention for yourself. So, what do I mean? I mean that we have to be very intentional with our time. It's hard enough to have to carve out time and have to sit down and be ready to do our creative work, only to think of only to have to think about why we're even there in the first place. There's nothing worse than waiting last minute to try to think about why this matters to us. I think that's the best way to get creatively blocked, the best way to lose your momentum, to feel uninspired. So this is why I really, really recommend that you think about your reasons for doing what you do before you actually have to do it. And I really want to emphasize that this has to be meaningful to you. It doesn't matter what people are saying out there about creating habits or whatnot. What matters is that your reason is meaningful to you. So if showing up to draw is a fun thing that you want to get into, then do it. But if you're like, I just want to have fun, I really don't care about getting better in terms of skill, I just want to do this for my own mental health, for my wellness, then do it. Whatever that is, like own it and go with it, because at the end of the day, as I always say, these are things that we are doing because we choose to do them. No one is forcing us to do it. And so why make it hard on yourself? Why punish yourself by doing something that you don't like doing? The next thing that you want to consider when it comes to your practice is finding a simple and personalized way to track your progress in whatever measure of success you have defined for yourself. So again, I'm going to say this over and over, but personalizing everything that you do is going to be so important in your journey as a creative person. In other words, you have to do what works for you. And we have to stop listening to what external voices are telling us should work for us. Why do I think this is so critical? Because a lot of the time we're doing things that people say we should be doing. And when they don't work for us, we internalize that. And then we say, I must be wrong. Something must be wrong with me. Why can I conquer this problem? And the reality is that a lot of the perceived problems that we think we have are really about not accepting ourselves and how we function as human beings. So find a simple way that you can track your progress. Don't make it a whole thing where you beat yourself up or punish yourself because you didn't achieve the thing. That's not the point. The point is for you to simply be able to see where you're at any given point. Define what success means to you so that you also have a way to know whether you're going in the right direction or not. That is determined by you. And it might feel like I'm putting a lot of pressure on you, but there's a reason for it. We are so comfortable with externalizing our power, giving our power away to other people. And a big lesson that I've learned by being an artist, by being a creative, is that a big reason why we get into this is because we want to experience more freedom, more personal fulfillment. We want to express our opinions. And so we have to start to get used to paying attention to what's inside of us, to our inner voice, and being comfortable with ourselves. And the last thing that you might want to consider when it comes to your creative practice is having a designated place where you can record or write down any reflections or discoveries that you make along your creative journey. For me, this is journaling. I say it all the time. I feel like I say it in every episode, but it really is my favorite way to do it because it's so simple, it's accessible, it's intimate, and I love the ability to just make some quick notes and be done with it. If you are somebody that is an external processor and needs to talk things out, I highly recommend using your voice memo app in your phone and talking out loud and just making notes, and make sure you label those notes because if you want to be able to refer back to them, you're going to be, you don't want to have to be looking through them. It's been my experience that making time to reflect along with making things has been so useful. And it's actually something that I didn't start doing until late in the game. So this is why I'm so passionate about telling you to do it earlier than that, because I would make a bunch of things. I did that for many years and I never really sat down to reflect on what I was doing. I would only focus on what I was doing wrong. And I would just be thinking and thinking about everything that I wasn't accomplishing, that I couldn't do. And so that's all that I was thinking about and that was in my mind. And now when I write things down and I put down the good, the bad, and the ugly, or like the areas that I can improve on, that is a much more balanced way to look at things. And it also gives me a level of satisfaction to note the little baby steps that I'm taking that are helping me to improve. And those baby steps really do matter. They add up and they help us to see that we have been taking the steps to move forward with our creative goals or our creative dreams. And it's really fulfilling. Let's go over 5 ways that you can start integrating creativity into your daily routine. Number 1, prioritize it. There is no other way to say it. We have to carve out time to work on our creativity. There's always going to be something pulling us in one direction, in another, but we have to make time for our creativity to develop that relationship that we want to have with our creative practice. For example, in my journey recently, when I started this podcast, I had to take a step back from doing other things to make time to do the podcast. And I knew that it was going to take me about 2 months to really get into the swing of things. And that was roughly the time that it did take to get to a point where I started to feel like this is just going to become part of what I do week in and week out. And so I wasn't surprised when it took this long, and I wasn't in a hurry to try to get it done. I knew myself enough to know I need time to acclimate to this new thing that I'm doing. This is a new skill that I'm developing, and I want to have the time to get into it. So this is why I say you really have to prioritize whatever it is that you want to work on, because we can't do all the things. Number 2, pick your creative medium in advance. As I've been talking about this whole episode, have your tools ready to work. Have your tools available and accessible so you don't have to be making that decision. That's one less decision we have to make, where we have to be thinking about what we want to work with or what we want to try. You want to do all of that before you sit down to try to create, because that really does take a lot of energy that you should be investing into the actual work, into the actual practice. And so if you are just starting in the world of creativity, in the world of self-expression, pick your poison and go with it. Number 3, protect your creative time. Similar to the first idea of prioritizing, you want to let folks around you know that you are going to be busy working on your creativity. This helps to avoid interruptions, frustrations, and expectations of you being available for others. There's nothing worse than being in the middle of your project or being really into whatever it is that you're doing, and someone needing you and pulling you away from this time that was supposed to be for you. And something that you want to watch out for is whether or not you make excuses when it comes to your creative practice. Often, this is a way of sabotaging ourselves, of undermining our plans because we are afraid. And so we make excuses and we prioritize other things and we say, oh, that was more important. But in reality, we might be afraid to do creative things, especially when we haven't been doing them. So be on the lookout. And here's a bonus tip. Remember that habits take time to develop. So don't expect to be able to do this right away. Start off with baby steps with the smallest thing that you can do to get started. I know we hear all the time, but really breaking things down to the smallest thing that is feasible and attainable for us really works because it removes the pressure from having to be extraordinary and amazing, make it impossible for you to fail. So if at first you're thinking like, I would love to be able to sit down for a whole hour to paint, that's cool, but that's not realistic in the beginning. Try 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever feels feasible to you. So that way you, again, avoid internalizing failure and saying to yourself, I can't do this. When you make it easy, you are helping yourself to feel those wins and be excited about showing up over and over. So let's recap. Today, we talked about why you might want to establish a creative routine, some of the key ingredients that you might want to include in said routine, and 5 ideas to help you kickstart your creative habit. In short, establishing a creative practice ensures that we create regularly without having to think too much about it. And when it becomes a habit, this becomes something that we look forward to. And this is where creativity goes from simply being this thing that you do whenever you have time to an intentional ritual for your self-care, your well-being, and your development as a creative person. I hope that this episode was helpful to you, no matter where you are in your creative journey. And before ending, I want to ask you for a quick favor. I'm actually in the middle of reviewing my business offerings, and I want to start creating new things that are more accessible because I know that many of you are not interested in coaching or might not be ready to invest in coaching, but I still want to create something that you can benefit from and that is affordable. So I need to hear from you. I want to hear what you would like to see from me. So email me. You can send me a message through my website. There's a contact form there, or you can send me a DM on Instagram. And I guess this is also a great place to plug in my newsletter, which is also on my website. I can link all of that in the show's description for you. I send weekly emails when a new episode drops, so you can be alerted. But this is also a great way to stay in touch. And you can always just reply to my emails whenever I'm asking for ideas and you want to give me your thoughts. That's a really great way to do it. So please reach out, share your ideas. I want to make sure that I create things that you want and that you need. So I really want to hear from you. Okay, until next time, keep showing up, keep creating, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.